By February 1917, when the expedition was recalled from Mexico, Pershing had emerged a hero. Although Villa eluded capture, Pershing and his punitive expedition chased the bandit throughout northern Mexico, badly wounded him, and killed and dispersed most of his band. Through newspaper coverage, Americans followed every detail and embraced John J. Pershing. Patton also achieved notoriety for his exploits, but more important to his career, he impressed Pershing as a talented staff officer and brave soldier. At the end of May 1917, Patton was among the party of 191 officers selected by Pershing to sail with him on the White Star SS Baltic for the Army's maiden voyage to Europe. What's more, there was a personal connection. Pershing and Patton's sister, Nita, were engaged. Pershing's risky nighttime trek through the Argonne forest carried special importance. He was headed toward the front for last-minute meetings with his corps and division commanders. The next morning, they would send over 225,000 untested American soldiers toward the strongest German defenses on the Western Front, commencing what one journalist would later call America's greatest battle. By autumn 1918, the Western Front had been deadlocked for most of the war. On this front, the Germans had concentrated most of their forces and held more territory than the Allies. There was little doubt from the beginning that the final outcome of the war would be decided on this front, which comprised Belgium and much of northeastern France. The first major battles of the 51-month-long conflict had been fought here, and many more were to follow. The war had started a month after Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated on June 28, 1914, in Sarajevo. Two opposing alliances, the Allies, France, Great Britain, and Russia, and the Central Powers, Germany and Austria-Hungary, took up arms and mobilized 6 million men during an unusually warm European summer. Germany deployed 1.5 million against France, which in turn moved 1 million men to her own eastern border to try to reclaim the provinces of Alsace and Lorraine that had been lost in the Franco-Prussian War of 1870–71. Britain readied more than 100,000 men for service across the English Channel, while Russia mobilized 1.4 million. Germany countered by sending 500,000 troops to the east. Of all the belligerents, Germany had the best trained and equipped army for fighting a modern war. Since defeating France in 1871, the German General Staff had planned for another inevitable encounter with their national rival. Even prior to 1914, German soldiers had practiced with rifles, machine guns, and artillery, and were issued uniforms that were practical for combat. On the battlefield, their bland grey-green attire blended with the terrain, while adversaries like the French, with their long blue coats and red trousers, stood out as easy targets. In early August 1914, the German armies put their might to the test. Following pre-war plans, the bulk of Germany's forces aimed for Paris by sweeping through Belgium and Luxembourg and attacking France from the north. At the same time, France struck along its eastern frontier and southern Belgium to drive German forces across the border. For 3 weeks, in what was collectively known as the Battle of the Frontiers, the French, with support from a British contingent that arrived on the continent just after neutral Belgium was attacked, poked and prodded the Germans before counterattacks sent them into retreat. By this time, German troops were occupying Belgium after the neutral country refused to give Germany free passage on its way to France. German soldiers in Belgium treated the civilian population with disdain, and for no clear reason inflicted wide-scale murder, rape, and pillage. Germany seemed unstoppable, and it looked as if it would be a short war, probably over by Christmas. By September 4th, German troops were within 35 miles of Paris. The city was in a panic, and the government prepared to evacuate. Remembering what had happened in 1871, the French expected the Germans to march in and seek surrender terms. Then, the unexpected